Good morning or afternoon or evening or whenever you're watching or listening to this. I'm Rachel Wright.
And I'm Kyle Wright, and it's currently the morning.
And welcome to The Right Reasons.
I guess it is time zone-wise. It could be any time, depending on where you're...
That's what I mean.
Okay, fair enough.
You never know.
Rough start to episode 2 of The Right Reasons, which is episode 3 of this season of The Bachelorette. I'm Kyle.
I think that's just like really confusing.
It is.
So we're just going to...
It's episode 3.
Yeah, it's episode 3.
We did 2 in the first one.
I am rocking my casual look today. Too hot?
Too hot.
For those of you who are listening on the podcast, you have no idea what we look like right now. However, I'm very casual.
Keeping it casual on a cloudy Tuesday in Manhattan.
You know, Hannah really inspired me last night with her, no makeup being in bed. And I thought, well, why don't I do that? And it just doesn't look the same.
Well, it's because she's not wearing no makeup. Ooh, double negatives. Rough way to start that. She's not wearing no makeup. Okay, so...
Hi, guys.
It's episode 3 of The Bachelorette of this season that we're going to cover. It is titled ABC. I feel particularly clever in this title selection for our episode because of what happens in the episode, and as one of the contestants' catchphrases might catch up with him.
It's very true.
Oh, that was bad. That sounded silly.
So let's dive in, because this episode was really good, first of all.
Yeah.
For an early on in the season episode, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that what we thought about certain people remains the same. In some ways, that made me very happy. Like, oh, cool, we got a good read on this person. And then in other ways, I was like, cool, he's still a tool.
I wonder who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. And a surprising thing happens. I guess I'd rather get it out of the way before.
Yeah.
Tyler G.
Yeah.
Ghosts the show. So he's on the show, and we see him a little bit in the beginning of the episode, and then he's just gone. And Hannah says, Tyler G had to leave. And that was it. I don't really know what happened yet, neither does the internet. I'm trying to avoid all the spoilers, so finding out what happened is a little difficult. But what it sounds like is that production pulled Tyler G aside and was like, hey, maybe not a good idea for you to be on the show anymore. The reasons are not specified. The internet, apparently some Reddit users contacted Ashley Spivey, who's like Bachelor detective, and said that apparently Tyler G has had some weird stuff happen with some exes. Very non-specific as to what happened, but if production is pulling him from the show, it can't be good.
Well, and Tyler G was the guy who had the first one-on-one date.
Yeah,
he was
the major, right?
the grad student.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. If you guys know what happened, please let us know.
Yeah. The one thing I read was that he spit on an ex-girlfriend while they were fighting.
Ooh,
which is...
that's gross.
Not only gross and disrespectful, but a very strange choice. So he's not in the show anymore. So just addressing that, Tyler G, doesn't matter. And I'm actually thankful for that, because now there's only one Tyler. So win for us. I don't have to remember 2 Tylers.
That's true. I am very interested to see what happened.
Yeah.
But Hannah seemed to get over it pretty quickly.
She didn't mind.
Which is interesting considering her one-on-one was the week before. So how I interpret that is like she kind of liked him, but like not a lot. Because I feel like if other guys had left that way, she would have been devastated.
Do you think production clued her in on why they chose to get rid of him?
Ooh.
Or to tell him it might not be a good idea for you to be on the show anymore, whatever happened?
That's a good question. I would think so, based on her... Tyler G had to leave. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, to me, I'm going to guess that she got wind of what it was.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like Demi could have been involved in this. Anyway, let's get into the episode.
Okay.
The episode starts with Luke S. mansplaining to us what Hannah's thinking and feeling.
You mean Luke P?
Oh, yeah, Luke P. See, this is why I'm happy to start going home.
Who's Luke S?
He's the other one.
There's another Luke?
Yeah, there's 2 Lukes.
Oh,
still.
right.
Luke P. My bad. Thank you for the correction. Luke P. just starts off the episode by explaining to us what Hannah is thinking and feeling and doing, and what she needs to do, think, and feel, which is Mansplaining 101 is what I wrote.
He is
Awesome,
something
bro.
else. So Chris Harrison is there, and it is a group date card. So who's going on this first group date? Jonathan, Mateo, John Paul Jones,
JPJ.
Kevin, Jed, Tyler C, but now he's just Tyler. At this point, we didn't know.
Just
Mike
Tyler.
and Cam. And Jed makes this comment that I really, really, really loved. He said, being bold doesn't have to mean being an asshole. And this was in reference to the way that Cam had been acting in the previous episode that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically acting like a dick and saying, well, she wants people that are bold. She wants a man who's bold. And I love that Jed was like, bold does not mean being an asshole. And I love that distinction. There were a lot of, and I know we're going to get into this a little deeper later, but there were a lot of moments in this episode where the line between, like the traditional, assertive, typical masculine cocky thing and not is discussed.
Yeah. You muddied through that one, but you got it at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, we're going to address more masculinity stuff later on in this episode. But agreeing with you in that, Jed's doing a good job.
And
I
did
like
you
Jed.
know that Jed is only 25?
I didn't. I did know that.
I think
do know that now. Isn't Hannah only like 26 though?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I felt like Jed.
Old soul. Well, he's a musician in Nashville. I don't know. I assume he plays some form of country rock and roll if he lives in Nashville. So, old souls are drawn to that kind of music. So maybe that's part of it.
I mean, maybe, but the way that he talks seemed so much older.
Very mature.
Yeah, Jed is 25 years old. It was towards the end. I was like, wait a minute, he's still only 25?
Yeah.
Very mature.
Okay, so we get into the first date, and there's a celebrity joining us for this date.
Two.
And it's two, right. Well, I don't know her as well. So
It's his wife.
Yeah, but I don't know her. What has she been in?
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, I know.
So, Jason Biggs and his wife, who's also an actress,
Jenny
but I
Mullen.
can't remember what she's done, are the celebrity guests for this skit in which...
For the skit.
It's what it is. So they bring in a doctor with... Well, so Hannah prefaces this with saying she's ready to see the men experience some pain because women go through so much pain and now the men need to learn. I get what she's trying to say. It sounded weird. I was like, is that a little... Okay, we'll see what it is. So it's going to be a pregnancy pain simulation date. And they start out by making some funny pregnancy jokes. Jason Biggs takes an opportunity to virgin shame Colton, which is a really great swing and a miss. Yeah. Not his season, still making virgin jokes, still making it sound like this man has less understanding and value in the world because he hasn't put his penis inside of a vagina.
Which he definitely has by now.
Right?
It was annoying.
Who cares?
It was annoying.
Jason Biggs, you look stupid by saying that. Continuing on.
I liked most of this date, though.
I did too. So the guys got to lay down. They hooked up little electrical things.
Whoa,
and it reminded me.
Whoa.
What?
That was the third part of the date.
Oh, yeah, I did fast forward to that, didn't I? Okay, the first part, go ahead. The first part's good.
So they
And the second
start
part.
with an... Yeah,
All right,
I was
they're
like,
all good.
wait
I
a
wrote
minute.
Jed shows empathy really well for this part. Okay.
He's great.
Continue.
So they start with quizzing the men on female anatomy, which I went from like a reclining position like this to like, I was so excited. Because this is something that we teach at Wright Wellness Center. Like, and every time we teach it, people are like, what?
Yep.
It's what?
Yep.
So I loved that they were doing this. There were moments that felt a little patronizing to me that I didn't love. However, it seemed a bit warranted because Tyler says something about how all he knows about pregnancy is that a woman gets bigger and bigger and hungrier and hungrier. Yeah, that's what he said. So, was it patronizing or was it accurate? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to address that.
I mean,
it's bad.
That's a...
It's
Come on.
I mean, are you 5? Because then you're correct if you're 5. But
I feel like
adult,
even 5-year-olds are like the baby grows in mommy's belly.
Fair. I think if you pulled a little bit of that thread, Tyler would be like, well, yeah, because there's a baby growing in there. He would have gotten there.
Right.
But the fact that he just says they get hungrier and bigger, not the best representation for the creation of life, which is like a whole thing.
So they ask some really good questions. Some of them are easier than others. The hardest question that they ask, Jed gets correct. So go, Jed.
Yeah, Jed does a good job.
Showing empathy, knew things about anatomy, on the younger side. I'm impressed so far.
Then the diaper changing simulation and the baby like soothing situation. It reminded me of 8th grade. Did you ever have like the baby test things?
So yeah, but before that, they put on the pregnancy suits.
Oh, the weights. That's right. That was good.
Yeah.
However, one thing I did question about that. So they put on the pregnancy suits with like fake boobs and then belly to simulate the weight of like falling forward a lot. I thought it was interesting. Like, I love the guys' immediate reactions. They're like, holy shit, this is like, I get how.
I think Jed said something about how he understands why pregnant women say that their lower back hurts.
I get the point of all of this, and I'm happy they did it. It is stunning to me that the guys need to do this kind of stuff to get their brains around the whole idea. It's like,
why?
I would.
How would you know what that feels like in any way, shape, or form?
No. I'm not saying the feeling like, because I can understand not knowing what it feels exactly like, but you can draw some conclusions based on the world, like the way people talk, and like if you ever listen to a woman who's had kids, like you hear I don't know. For me, it is odd to me that the guys needed this much like physical demonstration to wrap their heads around the fact that there are, back issues, tons of weight gain, all of this stuff. Like, I feel like they kind of could know this already. I don't want to say the word should, but like, I was like, they're like, oh my God, this is heavy. And I'm like, yeah.
But
did you not know that?
How could they know?
I don't know.
Like, they're 25 to 27 years old. Like, when you were 25 years old.
I knew this because I had pregnant coworkers and I talked to them and I listened to what they said.
There's the difference.
Have these men never interacted with a pregnant woman in their life?
So maybe not.
Ugh.
Also, that it takes two to tango, right? So the pregnant person has to be willing to share. True. And the person listening has to be actually willing to listen.
Okay. Also true.
So we don't get it. We are in a culture where we're not encouraged to talk about things like that. In fact, bringing up like a period at work for the majority of my life was frowned upon. Not to mention, like, I've never been pregnant. I hope to be soon-ish. Ish. However, in my past employment, I would have not felt comfortable talking about my body or what I was going through, let alone thought that the men there would want to hear about it at all.
All right. To each their own. Maybe I'm lucky for my experiences.
Well, I also think that your mom, she was a nurse. You grew up like talking about the human body. Well,
it's something that I've talked about a lot. I spent the majority of my life and employed career working directly with the majority of women. And like, I don't know. I'm fascinated. I listen to everything they say because it's really interesting. And so I guess this is I'm sorry for assuming the men on this show had any interaction the way that I had in the world. I would hope that they had, but I can't guarantee it. Obviously, some of them don't really take time to pay attention to other people's experiences, as we learn later in the show. And I would like to extend my thanks to the woman who shared all of her hilarious and interesting pregnancy stories with me, because I apparently learned a lot that a lot of people don't know until it happens.
But I also don't want to let our culture off the hook here.
Oh, no, I don't
want to. Because I don't think that it's necessarily like, yes, some of these men could have gone out of their way to ask questions of people that they know, but that also is frowned upon. Like, single 23 to 27-year-old dude comes up to pregnant friend and says, can you explain to me how your body feels? How well does that go over?
I don't know. It depends on the circumstances.
Right. But it's not like a commonplace conversation. It's not encouraged to do that.
wish it was.
I agree with you. What I'm saying is in today's day and age, I don't think it is. And so I think that we're all responsible for the lack of knowledge here.
Okay.
Just like the clitoris being shaped like a wishbone. Whenever we teach that, everyone's like, it's what? And if you're sitting there or listening, like whatever you're doing, and you hear that and you're like, wait, it is? This is the stuff. Yeah. But I don't hold men responsible for not knowing that. I also don't hold women responsible for not knowing that, because if they're not taught or they don't seek out, like, this is a bigger issue, is what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
With a lot of words.
But I agree. I think you said it really well. And so society, it's your fault. Way to go.
But that's what we want to change the narrative around. And that's part of why we have this show.
Right.
Right? Is to like talk about these things, because I thought that overall the date itself was really cool. I thought it took the men out of their comfort zones. Mm-hmm. I thought that it created a situation in which you could tell if they had empathy or not, which is also really important. And I also thought that the way that the men interacted with Hannah in this third part that we're about to talk about, the like electric shock, like contraction simulator, how they interacted with Hannah while they were in pain, I thought spoke a lot to how they would cope with pain in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the hesitancy?
Well, no, I don't know. We'll get into it. Okay, so...
Well, we're into it. We're there.
Well, so they do the diaper changing thing. Then they do the like the 8th grade. Did you ever have these where you have like a fake baby and then it cries every like 45 minutes and you got to like turn the key in its back, which is a really odd mechanism for it. It teaches you to like stick a key in your...
I'm sorry, guys. I have to fix my hairband. Just
go
ahead.
How dare you fix your hair? So fair. I hope that watching this episode, if you're someone who hasn't had an interaction with kids or pregnant women, it brings up some like, hey, maybe I could go out of my way to educate myself, but I also know that it's kind of an awkward societal question to ask. And this takes people on, but this is the problem with all of our societal issues. It takes people from both sides of the aisle to step into it, to have a conversation. So women need to be more open
100%.
to answering these kind of questions. Guys need to be more open about asking them. And then guys need to be, again, more responsible about listening to the answers. And also, then, on the fourth thing, women have to be okay with guys asking stupid questions, because sex ed in this country has failed us. So here we are.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think we all need to be okay with feeling stupid. Not being stupid, because we're not.
No.
But it's that feeling of, I should know this. It's like that internal dialogue of, I should know what this is. I don't know. And we all don't want to say, I don't know. Right? Like, how many times do you go to a restaurant and you're like, what is this ingredient, to the server? And they're like, it's seasoning. And you're like, just say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, just say, I don't know, but I'm going to go find out for you.
Well, and then no one's mad at that. That's the thing, is that when you're like, hey, I don't know, or you're like, hey, I feel poorly because I don't know the answer to this seemingly, it's like that awareness that you've done something that you're not happy with and you want to change it, and no one's mad at that.
That's exactly it.
If you know what it reminds me of is, have you seen the videos and gifs of like a dog that got into the trash? The revolving trash can lid is stuck over its head and it's sitting there. It's like, I know. No one's like mad at the dog. They're like, no, buddy, this is okay. Let me help you out here. That's the reaction that needs to happen. And I'm not equating men to dogs and putting their head in the trash, but all I'm trying to do is suggest that you treat each other with a little bit more kindness around trying to educate ourselves on something we're not educated on. That's my thing.
And even if it's your own body. So like women,
right?
If you have a question, like when I just said the thing about the clitoris being wishbone shaped.
I bet you some people are like, what the fuck? Are you serious?
You have 2 choices with that, right? Okay. Or like 3. You could Google it, you could ask a friend, or you could DM me on Instagram. Okay? Any of those puts you in a position of feeling a little vulnerable and feeling like, oh, this is my body. I should know what's going on with my... Well, how about reframing it and saying, wow, I didn't know that, and I'm going to learn it today. So there's no shame involved, and that's what I think was so important about this date, is that and that's where I didn't like the shaming part of like, oh, that guy doesn't know his way around a woman's body. Like, I didn't like that part, but I liked the fact that they were talking about it. So I was willing to take the other stuff with it.
I agree. It was good. Overall, good. The little patronizing around some of the guys, like, oh, you don't know how to do this? Whatever. Overarchingly positive. And I want to call attention to, at this stage of the show, traditionally speaking, the guys are doing some sort of, remember Becca's season? At this point, they're doing physical competition still. They're fighting. They're doing the lumberjack thing, doing that football game. It was nice to take the guys out of a physical competition, even though they spiced a little bit of toughness into the end of it. So this reminds me of those infomercials from like the early 2000s for the stomach shocking thing.
That's what I thought of too.
To get you in shape. So
yes.
They hook up a little electrical leads to the guy's pelvic muscles so they can simulate contractions to simulate the pain of childbirth. They can't obviously do the whole like pelvic bone splitting. They can't do all of it.
I looked at Kyle during it, and Kyle goes, I would do that to feel what it feels like. And I was like, really? You're going to somehow like grow a vagina and then like push a bowling ball out of it? Because while you're still feeling the contractions in delivery, you have the contractions and a fucking turkey coming out of your vagina.
It was a well-intentioned
I know. I love you.
And
I
suggestion,
appreciate
whatever.
it.
Now I don't want to do it. So the guys all experience pain. Some guys are really honest about it. They're like, I don't know what this is going to be like, and I think it's going to hurt a lot, but I need to figure out what to do. And so they just felt the pain, and they're like, ow, this hurts. And she's like, yes, it does. And they're like, wow, that was really painful. And then Tyler, the only Tyler at this point, tries to look cool and tough it out, and it goes poorly, and she kind of makes fun of him a little bit, which is fine.
She's like, I think Tyler thought it was a photo shoot, because he's laying there.
He's like trying to be all tough.
He's like this. And then my favorite by a long shot was John Paul Jones.
John Paul Jones' reaction makes Jed laugh so hard he falls over.
But I gotta say, this is 2 weeks in a row. John Paul Jones last week learned how to ride a unicycle and looked like an idiot, and it was amazing.
He's not afraid to look silly.
And this week, he was like totally scared. Like, you could see his face going into this thing. Like, he does not have a high pain tolerance. And this dude just leaned into it, and his face was...
he was like shaking ahead of time too. He was
nervous.
Well, yeah, you watch like 20 dudes ahead of you scream in pain.
It was great. I really like props to John Paul Jones. As creepy as he comes off sometimes in other scenarios, the way that he has shown up on the group dates has been like just for someone who has a very serious name, he seems to not take himself too seriously, and I appreciate that.
Same. All right. Post day. See, I'm seeing Jed. If he can just pull a little bit more out about who he is, I think Jed's like top 6 of the show.
Yeah.
They have good chemistry. He empathizes, and he's just like. There's a couple other instances that you'll see in this episode and in the previous ones where guys have been kind of squabbling over time with Hannah. Who does this? How is the date going to go? And Jed's just kind of chilling out. We don't see him talk a lot about the format of the show. He's not really confronting the other dudes that much. He keeps his distance from Cam a little bit. Like, Jed is just kind of there for her, which is refreshing to see because a lot of the guys are about each other and then so that's really, really nice.
It was very refreshing, and honestly, that's why I think I thought he was older, which is interesting because some of the older guys, well, I mean, we're talking 25 to 30, okay? Like, older is relative in Bachelor world.
So, continue.
No, that's okay.
Well, I was going to move on to the next.
Yeah, so we go to the first commercial, and then we're at the evening part of the date. And Jed gets pulled first, which is cool.
Yeah, so she sits down with Jed. They talk for a little bit, which is good.
They kiss a lot.
At this time, however, something interesting starts happening, and this is why this episode of Our Right Reasons is named ABC, because Cam keeps saying, ABC, always be Cam. So I figured it'd be fitting for this episode, because this is where the trouble begins.
I wish I could go into a puddle like in The Secret World of Alex Mack right now.
Cam is complaining about, this is Tyler C. for all of his weird, Tyler, the only Tyler. I keep writing down Tyler C. because I didn't know at the time that he was the only one left. Anyway, Tyler does something amazing. He kind of plays like the really, really handsome but very airhead kind of personality leading up to this point, where he like needles this perfect little dagger. It's great. So Cam is complaining about the format of the show, and he's like, I just want to talk to her. I've got things to say, and I want time, and all these guys got to take their time, and blah, blah, blah. And Tyler's like, hey, man, You ever seen like a first grader soccer game where all the kids just cluster around the ball and nothing happens? And he's like, that's what would happen if the format of the show wasn't like this. We all need our time. Like, otherwise it's going to be a shit show. And I was like,
we literally
yes.
paused. We paused the show because I was sitting there. I was writing down what he said because
oh my God,
it made me giggle. And then I realized, I was like, wait, who said that? And I looked back up to make sure I had it correct. And we legitimately had to pause the show because I was like, Tyler did not say that. That was like, not Tyler. It was so out of left field.
Shuts down Cam shit right away. He's like, oh. And I'm like, and he says it like very relaxed. And he's like, you ever seen a first grader soccer game? It's just a clusterfuck, man. No one's going to go near that.
It was so amazing. Yeah. And Cam's sitting there just like essentially mansplaining to the other men, which is interesting.
He is being aggressive and not assertive, but he's saying he's assertive. This is a theme for the episode.
Yes.
So, Cam, they have their thing. Jed leaves. So Mike gets his time. This is really cool.
Mike train, choo-choo.
I mean, I think we're all on the Mike train at this point. I would also like to see him in the top 6. So,
or on Paradise if he does. Like, I mean, if he does not end up with Hannah, I want him on Paradise.
Yes.
Or is it next Bachelor?
Oh. Yeah.
Mike for Bachelor. Anybody else? If you want Mike for Bachelor, let's start the hashtag. Hashtag Mike for Bachelor.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
That's cool. I mean, I agree.
Right?
So he sits down with Hannah and he's like, I need to tell you something. And this is like, you asked for vulnerability in the last date, and I haven't been showing you that. And this date like really triggered me, and I need to share something with you that's really, really difficult for me. Which is, first of all, amazing. He calls attention to the fact that he wasn't being truthful, or he wasn't being honest about something that he's struggling with, and that this date was triggering for him. He shares a story about how his ex became pregnant, and they lost a baby in the second trimester, and it was this huge thing that he still is struggling. It was really well articulated. He was just sharing like, hey, I'm a little offset because of this date, but I also realized that I wasn't sharing like my life with you, and this is part of it. And he does a really, really good job. And he also mentions it. He thinks that it's his fault because he wasn't there, is what he said.
That killed me.
And so we don't know the context of that, but his wearing of that like pain is really evident. It was really incredible to see, and so good for him for showing up like that, and Hannah for listening really, really well.
Yeah, the whole interaction was so well handled on both sides, and what I really liked about it from both of their perspectives is he did not lean into this like, this is my sad story, now you give me a rose because I opened up to you.
Yeah.
And she wasn't like, oh, that's part of what made you you, and I love the you right here. We've seen this play out many times on the show.
Yeah.
This felt not in that formula. It very much felt like something that he may have possibly not told her until later.
Yeah.
In general, but because the
theme of the
date was around childbirth, it brought all of this up for him. And I also thought that he handled himself, like looking back at the date through the lens of that he was dealing with this on his mind the whole time.
He did a good job.
He handled himself really well. Whereas I think a lot of times when whether it's male or female, get triggered on a date for whatever reason, they kind of take over the group date.
Yeah.
And like Annalise with the bumper car thing.
Oh, God.
Right? Like on, I think it was Ari's season, this contestant had a quote unquote bumper car trauma, and her crying and explaining this to Ari took up like
the whole episode,
20 minutes of the group date. Yeah. And that's all we got to see. So I really liked how Mike waited until it was an appropriate time for him to really have that one-on-one time with her. And the way that he expressed it was so genuine. And Hannah listened. She did not give him pity or like, oh my gosh, that's so sad for you. She just was there.
Yeah. It was really good.
It was just a really great interaction overall. And then guess who walks in?
Cam. Always be Cam. See how many times you can say that before it catches up with you.
I'm going to change it to, bye, Cam.
Ooh, that's not good. You can come with a better one by the end of this episode. I challenge you. Come up with a better one. So Mike is sharing this vulnerable shit. Cam sweatily walks in and he's like, hey guys, I need to say something. And Mike's like, dude, I'm talking. Like, this is important right now. And Cam's like, well, I need to talk too, so I'll just be outside. And then doesn't leave. He just stands there awkwardly on the side. And so...
Well, yeah, one of them said, can you wait outside the door? And he said yes.
He said, I'll wait right outside the door. And then he stands in the room still and doesn't leave. And so they're trying to be honest. And Mike's like, just give me a hug to Hannah. And Hannah's like, I'm not done talking to you. Let's keep going. And they're kind of like, okay, Cam, like, we'll get you at some point. He walks out. They kiss briefly. Hannah's about to say something to Mike. She's like, hey, I really want to tell you. And then Cam comes back in. And Hannah's visibly annoyed.
So...
And then she kisses Mike in front of Cam, and she's like, you're amazing.
Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah. I wrote, it's on.
This was really cool for me because I first wrote down she needs to be more assertive because she kind of let Mike handle the interaction with Cam, which is fine. I get you want to see how somebody would handle something like that. And also, traditionally, the lead sucks at doing this, right? They're like, they leave it up to the contestants.
You don't want to be rude to the other people because that's what they'll tell you on the internet later on.
Exactly,
Stupid.
which I really don't like.
Real stupid.
But what we watched in just this episode was Hannah go from not really being assertive about her time with people to like the most assertive lead I've ever seen by the end.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool just within these 2 hours of editing that we got this arc of hers.
Yep.
And Mike says about Cam, he's going to quickly realize you're not going to play that with me. And I was like, okay, all right, Mike.
So Mike's all heated after that, understandably. I would be.
But not in an aggro way.
No. Not like confrontational.
It didn't
but
feel
the
uncomfortable for me.
No, not at all. No. He's very clearly frustrated for a very legitimate reason.
Yeah.
So Tyler, again, shows these little nuggets of incredibleness.
Brilliance.
He reassures, he's like, hey, man, Cam is the one doing damage to himself. You just chill. And Mike's like, yeah, that's a good point. Tyler's like, it's not worth it.
And then they just like chill on the couch. Tyler.
You're killing it, man. You're doing a good job. In little bits and pieces, though.
And I wrote down this particular group of guys, I think it was 8 of them on this date, in general felt very mature to me. Yeah. Overall. It
Leading
felt
up to
like
this moment.
Well, it felt like Cam was by far the least mature, and then Jonathan, who I think we're about to talk about if I'm remembering the order correctly, kind of falls on the grenade for like everybody else.
Oh, he does.
But overall, I felt a maturity that in past seasons, the kind of toxic, aggressive masculinity thing, Mike would have come back and they would have been like, yeah, man, fucking kick Cam's ass. They did not hype him up. They were like, dude, not worth it. Chill.
They do the thing where they talk like centimeters from each other's faces, like they're going to kiss, but they're not going to kiss. Yes. And they're like, bro, you got to be quiet. No, bro, you got to listen to me. They bro a lot. That's it. I love
They
those.
didn't do that. It felt very
nice.
mature. I liked it.
So we cut back to Cam is talking to Hannah, and he's telling Hannah that she needs to listen to him because he has deep stuff too, but then mentions that he had to resign from his job for the show, so that's the most sacrifice a one person can make. Right after Mike shares the story about his ex and the baby they lost. So
this is
Cam
how I felt
looks like
about
a piece of shit. That's accurate, but yeah. So
it is.
Jonathan is talking this out with Tyler and Mike a little bit. And then finally he stands up. He's looking more and more frustrated. And here's what I like about Jonathan. He's a server in Chicago, so he works in a restaurant. And when you're in a restaurant, like persona, you kind of can't give a fuck around certain things. And he does just that. His energy, so he walks past Mike and says, karma's a bitch, and then walks into the room with Hannah.
Wait, can I pause for 1 second?
Yes.
I just want to comment that Cam using a choice that he made.
Oh, yeah.
To say this is the boldest thing or whatever that somebody could do and then expecting a response, that is not okay. Yeah. When we make choices as individuals, we're doing them for ourselves regardless of the outcome or what we want somebody else to think of us or react to. And that to me felt very manipulative and very like, I'm going to tell her that I left my job to come here for her. okay, that might be true in your head, Cam, but you chose to leave your job.
Right.
You chose to walk away from that. That was
Right.
your decision. So the result of that is nobody's responsibility but yours. Okay, I had to get that out. Please continue.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, that's a good point. And it's
Jonathan-
also a reality of the show. I mean, many people have had to leave certain jobs because of the show. Like, they don't
Yep.
want their employees going on the show, and it's one of their, well, not, whatever. So anyway,
I get it. It could be a PR nightmare.
Jonathan puts on his hospitality service
Oh my God, it was
alter
amazing.
ego.
It was amazing.
Walks by a mic and says, "Karma's a bitch," and then walks into the room where Cam is sitting with Hannah. And then he proceeds to give Cam the same treatment that I used to give people when I was bartending, when the restaurant's been closed for a goddamn hour and there's one table that won't leave, and you just start taking their stuff off the table regardless of whether or not they're done with it. He goes up and he's like, "Hey man, I'm going to talk to Hannah now." And Cam's like, "Well, no, I need my time." And he's like, "No, you don't. You're done. You're moving on." And starts getting their drinks
He's like
off
bussing
of
the table.
And then Cam's like trying to like talk to Hannah and get closer, and Jonathan physically pushes himself between them, and he's like, "No, bro, it's time to go. It's time to go." Maybe not the best choice for your longevity on the show,
But so good.
dude, way to be non-confrontational yet controlling of the situation, because you know she doesn't want to talk to him. You know he pissed off your friends. So what are you going to do? You're going to interject. I think Jonathan knew he wasn't going to make it. I think he saw the writing on the wall, and then he decided to jump on that grenade. And honestly, he wins the episode for me because he busses the table, gets in between them. Hannah isn't seemingly stoked on the situation, but she also isn't saying, "Hey, don't do that." She's just letting it play out as is. And then Cam walks away, and he's like, "Well, I didn't get physical, so I'm the bigger man in this."
Are you, Cam?
Are you?
Are you?
Are you?
Yeah, and then
Love
Cam
that.
was telling John Paul Jones that there's a okay, this quote exactly. He's
Is this
sitting
one to
there.
sit next to other on the couch?
Yeah. He says there's a difference between being bold, charismatic, and romantic versus being a little physical, overpowering, insecure chihuahua like he was.
A lot of confusing terms there that don't quite play into each other.
First of all,
little but powerful.
are we saying that chihuahuas are insecure and overpowering?
I mean, they're aggressive, but they're not overpowered. Raise your hand if you've been overpowered by a chihuahua.
Can't say I have.
That's stupid. Don't be stupid.
And I can't help but that was a dig at Jonathan. It looked like Jonathan is a little bit shorter. I don't know. It just seemed
Didn't
very
make
like
sense.
I didn't like it.
So-
and so I wrote down, is John Paul Jones friends with Cam? Like, is that his only friend, or is it just he had needed someone to talk to?
I think you need someone to talk to.
And why is everyone eating chicken nuggets?
Wait, it's because it's to make fun of Cam, because Cam pulled her into that weird chicken nugget date, like the first episode or something like that. And then, 'cause remember, Kevin threw chicken nuggets at Cam later on.
Yeah, I know, but then
think
John
they're
Paul
eating it-
Jones was eating chicken nuggets.
I think they're eating it out of a taunt, but it's not being well translated onto the show. Producers, if you're watching, if you can update us on why the gimmicks are happening, that would be helpful, because I'm inferring that it's a play, it's like a joke on Cam that there's chicken nuggets around now because that one chicken nugget thing.
Somebody on Reddit last night said that it was because McDonald's provides chicken McNuggets to the cast, and I was like,
I think
they
it's
didn't even put McDonald's
like logo or branding.
right. Also, gross.
I mean, yeah, overarchingly gross. I think it's because the chicken nugget.
I don't know.
with
Somebody,
Kevin,
did
yeah.
we miss something? If
No,
you
it's
know,
because-
let us know,
It's
please.
because Kevin was talking to Hannah, and then Cam's like, "I have a date for all three of us," and then
I
it's that weird
know.
chicken nugget thing.
I
Anyway,
know. Anyway,
here's what I like. The whole thing plays out. Jonathan's sitting on the couch, and this is what Cam is doing to him.
okay. Here, let's role play it. Okay, I'm gonna be Jonathan. Dude, do you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Dude, if you want to say something, just say something.
No.
Do you have something to say?
No. He just mean mugs him, and then when Jonathan's like, "What's up, dude?" He's like, "Nothing." Whatever, dude.
Then they have the most passive conversation I've ever witnessed. And let me tell you, 8+ years of being a psychotherapist, I've heard some fucking passive conversations. All right? This may have taken the cake. It was the most passive conversation. And then it gets silent, and John Paul Jones offers them chicken nuggets.
Yeah, he's like, chicken nuggets? It was. So, all right. We learned that Connor's going to get the single date later on, the one-on-one date. Tyler C gets an interview, the only Tyler. And this is what I wrote down.
Oh, yeah.
He says this all in a very relaxed way. He says, I'm 100% in. Women run the world. I want to be like her arm candy or like trophy husband. Like, this is amazing. I wrote down that Tyler learned what feminism was today.
He goes, I want to call my mom now.
He's like, yeah, I want to call my mom and, like, tell her thank you and, like, you know, tell her how much I understand about things now. Like, I don't want to, like, be patronizing, but the guy's, like, learning a lot on the show, and it's really cool.
Tyler, Tyler reminds me of, like...
He says it in such a relaxed way. He's
what
like, women
dog
run the world.
Does he remind me of?
A basset hound.
No.
The droopy ears.
No. He's like...
It's definitely some sort of hound because he's from the South and he has like that Southern drawl thing. Come on.
He's like a dumb terrier.
Oh, well, that's worse than what I said.
No, I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying terriers are really smart and Tyler doesn't. Anyway. Okay.
Anyway.
Group date rose.
And Mike gets the rose from the group date.
Choo-choo.
Choo-choo. Commercial. Cut back to Hannah getting an IV drip.
Wait.
What? That was it.
Mike says, okay, Hannah says as she's handing out the rose to Mike, she says, the group date rose goes to Mike because bold can be shown in many different ways, and you showed a different way of being bold tonight.
Valid.
Boom.
Good point.
Hannah, it was so well said. She was inferring clearly that his vulnerability was the bold gesture, and Cam's face just is like blank. He cannot fathom how anyone was less bold than him, interrupting everybody.
How dare anyone else have feelings and thoughts that are not his or about him. So Hannah's getting an IV drip. The date with Connor is canceled, but then he gets to go take care of her in a hotel. We don't know what's happening. She's like, I'm not contagious. She said, I just woke up and then passed out earlier. It sounds like she was dehydrated or just stressed or something. Who
Exhaustion,
knows?
Stress, too much alcohol.
So
I don't know.
The result is she gets an IV drip. She's fine.
It
Connor
looked like exhaustion, like
she looked
dehydration
tired.
and exhaustion.
She looked tired as fuck. Because they make out. He brings her soup, flowers, and a card. Very stereotypical. I wrote down that I would win this date if it was a take care of your spouse while they're a sick date.
100%.
I would have killed it. And Connor, he did okay. It was mostly talking. What we saw was mostly him telling Hannah about himself and then her kissing him. So who's to say? But
and Luke says back at the mansion.
Luke P.
Yes, that it's. Oh, I call the other Luke Baby Vial.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the...
Okay,
sorry,
so Luke P.
S.
says that it's his job to care for her right now and that she wants him over there.
So.
She's not said this, but Luke says that she wants wants him over there. This guy is like... This is just the beginning. It gets worse and worse throughout the episode.
So it's
which
funny
we
that
gotta
you
talk faster.
actually,
I can't believe we're at 43 minutes.
It's funny that you actually said what he actually said because all I wrote down was Luke P shows us how annoying he is. Who cares?
Yeah, no, it's more annoying. It's more narcissistic than annoying.
Yep. Connor shares his difficulties in life. Apparently his mom had a stroke and couldn't form sentences in front of him when he was 13.
Yeah,
and
that
it was really traumatic. And so I think that he's really sensitive to personal injury I don't know. He shared that and sounds terrible.
He said that that's what helped him see how strong his parents' relationship was.
Yes, thank you.
And that they've been married for 37 years. And so it was that moment, I think he was like 13, that he was like, I want a relationship like that.
Yeah.
And what a great takeaway from a really tragic thing. His mom is seemingly okay now.
Yep.
But what a beautiful takeaway to walk away and say, wow, I now know what a supportive partner in a crisis looks like. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was good.
He leaves Post-it notes all over
the apartment.
villa or apartment or whatever.
That's cute. I like that.
It was really cute. It was
It's like a thing you do when you're dating, though. It's a really normal thing to do. He did a great job with that. I think it all worked out really well. Cut back to Luke P. And I wrote down, Luke P. talks about Connor like he wants to eat him or fuck him.
Oh, yeah. He says,
is confusing.
I love Connor. He's going to marry an awesome woman one day, but not Hannah.
But he says it with his dead look in his eyes.
And then,
I don't like it.
When we come back from commercial, Luke asks Connor what Hannah was wearing.
Dude, she's sick. She's getting an IV drip. Not a good place to ask that question.
Yep. So then a guy comes to pick up Connor. Surprise! You're still going to get to go see Hannah, get a rose, and have an awkward private concert. Woo!
Yep.
So that's what happens. That's when they tell us about Tyler G leaving.
Yep.
And it's time for the second group date. So it's 8 men on the group date, and the date card says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I would like to note the photographer was very over-the-top, flamboyant, like gay character type, and Luke P. was uncomfortable again. We forgot to mention this in our last episode, and I felt really badly about it because it was important to mention. He was incredibly uncomfortable around the drag queens.
Oh, yeah.
And I had it down in my notes, and for whatever reason, we skipped over that. And so I watched him very closely for how he, not to say that drag queens and someone who identifies as gay are the same. They're obviously very different, but this is
not
anything outside of the
white,
straight white male
Yeah.
cisgender, right?
Yeah.
And Luke was very uncomfortable.
So they are going to go do a photo shoot, and they're like, there's going to be models, there's going to be photos with the models, and Luke's like, are they going to be hot models? Just this weird shirt puff thing. They'd be like, I don't know, are they like professional models? As if it matters. So, surprise, the models are animals.
This was like the best
There's
twist ever.
a
It was like
little
a petting
horse
zoo.
and a snake and a baby llama and a pig and dogs. It was great. And so the guys do photo shoots with the models. And I think it's great because Hannah gets to see how the guys treat, in air quotes, a lower life form. It's really about how you treat something that is going to be like a pet or something that can't like tell you what it needs right then and there.
Yeah.
There's something in that in the way you treat an animal. So I think it's a great date because it will weed out the sociopaths.
I mean, it didn't.
Well,
but yes.
we also don't know if there's any true sociopaths. I'd like to joke, but...
Yeah. Well. So then we find out that Demi is there. And not only is Demi spying on the guys again, but she has hired 2 actresses to play. One is the animal handler and one is the makeup artist to flirt with the guys and see how they react, which...
It's like part entrapment and then part I understand a little bit what's going on. I wrote down that Demi's like the Scooby-Doo detective for The Bachelor, and I am 100% in favor of having her be the one to do background checks and then to call the guys or girls out on the show. If ABC could actually employ Demi as like Chris Harrison's like behind-the-scenes computer person, I would love it. It would make an incredible addition to the show.
And she even admits, her quote was, I would have been fucked if we'd done this on my season.
Because she'd be
Who
flirting
knows what
with the
the fuck
people.
I would have said.
Yeah, because she'd be flirting with the people.
Yeah.
Nothing happens, though, which is underwhelming that they brought her back for that.
Yeah.
You know?
So nothing happens. Luke watches Hannah and Pete, the pilot. Peter.
I like Peter.
I
He's
do
good.
too. He's adorable.
He
They're
wins.
really cute together.
I think he'll go far.
Do you think he's the winner?
I can see it. We were talking about it last night. I think that we'll yeah. So
Okay, we can talk more about
we'll
it.
talk more about it. I have some notes later on. I think that he's the most age appropriate, and he seems that he enjoys things the same way she does. Like very open, like here to have a
Fun,
good time,
playful.
but I'm also like I have a deeper side, but also very much like kind of happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
I find their energy very similar, and I think he'll either go very far or I don't know, flame out in the next 2 episodes.
Yes, those are
Those
two
are
of
the
the
two
options.
options.
So Luke is so uncomfortable watching the chemistry between Peter and Hannah that he actually interrupts and goes back for a second round of photos and makes Hannah stand on his back while he does push-ups. It was the most insecure act on all fronts I've ever seen. It was absolutely outrageous.
Even the guys call him out. They're like, "Yeah, he's in great shape, but like, I mean, you already got your photos, man.
It's really at this point that she starts to notice that something is up.
Yeah.
This was the first time that we as viewers really got to see Hannah be like, wait,
what are you doing?
Why can't Luke like calm down? And then he tries to like follow her
and he's
at
like,
one point.
He tries to walk her to like her next thing, and she's like, no, I'm leaving. Chill out, dude.
Yeah, it was okay. Then we cut to commercial,
and it comes back to Hannah asking Luke P to come talk to her really quickly.
And she's pissed.
She tells him, I know you stole the show in a negative way during that group date. You were calling attention to yourself and to me in a way that I wasn't okay with, and it was weird for everybody else too. Said she's not feeling his actions and addresses the way that he won't let her like go very far from him as a red flag. So
yeah, she says, I've been struggling with it because you feel like it's promised to you, and I don't like that.
Yep.
And then he tries to interrupt her, and she says, hold on, let me talk. Which was awesome.
Her understanding of his masculinity and or assertiveness is really, really interesting. And this is my issue with the show, right, in its current form. Because
like the show or this scene?
This scene. Well, this is my issue because Hannah is doing two things here. And I think she's trying to figure out what she really feels. But we're currently at a place where I don't think it's doing it's not giving a positive message, because we see Luke being incredibly toxic masculinity towards everybody, right? She reassures him that his aggressive and assertiveness can be very attractive to her, but gives him warning saying it can also not be, but doesn't really show a definable line in there. So if I'm a guy watching this, what am I to take away from how a man can respect other men and women around them? Because right now we're getting two stories. We're getting one, that being the way he is to the other guys and to Hannah is okay, including not letting her out of her sight, telling the other guys that they don't really matter around her, being really, really uncomfortable around her being around other people, male or female. We're hearing that that's okay in a lot of ways still. Even though Hannah's like, well, it's not really. And she even addresses something and calls it a red flag. And if you're using terms like red flag for a relationship at this point of the show, I'm surprised that she didn't kick him off right then and there, because in other shows, that's what would have happened in other seasons. So I'm troubled by this slight pushback she's doing, but still being fairly okay with the majority of his actions, which are pretty terrible in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. What I will say is that I found her to be very self-aware about that. And in her ITM, in her In the Moment interview, she does say that the line between attractive, like assertive attractive, and like cocky dominant is very thin. And that it can flip-flop for her from super attractive to the least attractive thing very easily. And I think that when she says that, I think she's speaking for a lot of women. I think that as a culture, and we talked a little bit about this last night right after the show, I think that as a culture, we've perpetuated this idea of like the Gastons of the world are very attractive, and that this dominant masculine thing is attractive because in some cases it is, right? Like I love watching, if somebody tries to like hit on me very inappropriately, I love watching Kyle say, hey man, back off. Or like whatever it is. Or if I'm in danger, right, and Kyle does something to protect me, I find that very attractive.
I'm not starting fights in bars.
Correct. That I
when
find
guys
not
talk
attractive.
To Rachel, though.
But the point is we need to define that line better as a culture so that men can thrive and not feel like anything that they do is going to be it's going to be criticized, right? Because either you're acting quote unquote too weak or you're acting too aggressive. Like what does that mean?
And that's my issue with this whole scene, is that it's leaving it very open-ended, and Hannah is calling some of it out, but she's also giving a lot of it a huge pass. And I find it interesting. So my out for her in this is that she comes from very traditional Christian value, traditional Christian values home, something like that. Anyway, and a lot of the way that Luke P acts is within line of that. So I think that's why it's gone on so long without being addressed. I'm happy she's addressing it now. And basically, like, I don't love the way you're being. And I have other relationships with these guys. And you're not respecting them. And I need you to do that, or that's it. So here's the issue. Because she is pulling toxic masculinity right into the spotlight in this moment. Because she tells him what she wants, lets him know she's not okay with what he's doing, and then asks him to change. Great. Perfect. Like, that's an awesome set. Regardless of not really addressing the other stuff and kind of giving him a pass.
It was well done.
She did a great job. Here's the issue, which she doesn't see. Luke goes back to the guys, visibly upset, and paints the whole thing in a very patronizing way about Hannah. He suggests that she's not understanding and doesn't understand him, and he hasn't gotten to say what he wants to say, and that he has to listen to her when he's not saying something that he wants to say.
And he says that she's irritated with the relationship. And then he says, I'm just going to forget this conversation ever happened.
I just want to move on from it and just not address this.
What?
Let me know how that works out in life, buddy.
It was so fucked. It was so fucked. So
then he tries to interrupt someone else.
Yep. And she says, I'll talk to you later. All right. Then he walks away. Then next guy comes in. Luke comes back and tries to interrupt again. He is not listening to her. Then other Luke, who I call baby Nick Vial, is because he looks like Nick Vial with the baby filter on Snapchat.
He does. It's so bad. I'm sorry.
You guys, it's real. Like, I'm telling you, put the baby filter on Nick Vial's face. It's Luke S. So baby Vial is talking to Luke about how Luke P feels very unstable, and that the people who have been patient and respectful towards Hannah and the process are the ones that are doing better right now, which I agree with. Again, we haven't heard a lot from baby Vial.
No.
And yet,
He's doing a good job.
great commentary. And then it's time for Pete to have his time. And Luke is essentially trying to fuck with Pete to get in front of him to have more time. And Pete does the brilliant, mature thing of, I'm just going to sit here and let him dig his own grave.
Yeah, like Hannah's in a room doing something, and Luke chooses to physically bar Peter from passing him and going into the room where Hannah is, because he's going to go talk to her. Luke is now physically withholding the other contestants' time from Hannah without her awareness. And so Peter just sits down, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to sit here. She's going to come out, like, and then I'm going to talk to her. You already had your time. I haven't had my time. So, like, deal with it. And Luke just sits there and stews. And he's like, this is not cool, man. You're just standing there. You're being disrespectful. And Peter's like, you're being fucking crazy, man. I'm just sitting here.
He's like, I'm just sitting here.
I wrote down, Luke keeps trying to stop her from talking to all the men, and she keeps stuffing him back in his box.
100%.
And then he pouts. And then the guys start whittling away at him with these amazing open-ended questions.
Yeah,
They're
so
like, what's going on with you, man? Want to talk about it?
Luke, so Hannah's sitting then with another guy that I still don't know his name. I need to know that.
Oh, this was Garrett, I think.
Oh, it was?
With the tall hair?
I don't remember.
That's how I
and
know it.
Luke comes in again and says, well, can I talk to you now? And she says, I promise that we'll talk more tonight, but I want to talk to everyone. I want to call my own shots. I'm talking to everyone.
Yep.
And I wrote down, I'm so proud of Hannah right now.
Yep.
And Pete handled it so well. He totally let Luke fuck himself over. And then Luke comes back to the couches and says, well, I'm having thoughts about going home tonight because I can't say that I'm in love with her. So what I put is that he's essentially acting like a narcissist threatening to kill himself.
Yeah.
In a microcosm.
Because she won't give him what he thinks he needs or deserves.
He's threatening.
He's going to take his ball and go home.
Yep.
That's what that is. And while he's pouting and being frustrated on the couch, Peter is sitting with Hannah, talking about his parents. His mom was a pageant girl, ended up being a flight attendant.
She was what, Miss Illinois?
Yeah, Miss Illinois. So she's Miss Illinois, becomes a flight attendant, meets his dad, who was a pilot on the flight that she was a flight attendant on. It's a great story.
It's cute.
The two of them make out a lot, and she does the Becca leg lock thing.
Oh,
So
God, and they
I
have
think
an
it's on-
Ari kiss.
This is
it's
when
a
I
wall
say
kiss.
Peter top 3. He's not aggressive, but confident, age appropriate, and she does the leg lock thing. Clearly, I think we'll get Peter top 3. I'm calling
Yeah,
it.
I agree. So they get back to the
yeah.
couches. She's about to hand out the group date rose, and she pulls Luke aside, and she basically says the same thing that she has said. But his response this time is, okay, well, now I know what to do, which I roll. Then they go back to the couches, and Peter gets the group date rose. So far, we have Mike got the group date rose, Connor got the one-on-one
And
rose,
Peter.
and Peter
Those are there.
got
We'll save those 3 out.
the group date rose.
Yeah, so Hannah does the thing, gives Luke another chance to prove himself. I wrote very underwhelming. I mean, he walks like a duck, he talks like a duck. Why give it more chances to prove it's not a duck? It's a duck. He's an asshole.
Yeah, he is.
No cocktail party.
Yeah, so then we cut to commercial, and we come back, and it's Chris Harrison in the house, and he lets them know that there's not going to be a cocktail party, but there's going to be a tailgate party. And he leaves, and Cam interrupts everyone and says, listen, guys, I need to tell Hannah something really sad today because, and she's probably going to send me home because of it. And apparently starts writing them letters, saying goodbye, all of these things. And after they start tailgating, Cam pulls her aside right after this brilliant edit where her voiceover is like, I just really don't want to have any emotional and
sob
traumatic
stories.
conversations today. I just really need to have fun. And then it's like Cam goes, hey, can I talk to you for a second? And I'm like, haha, editing.
So this is my summarization of what he tells her. He needed an amputation, and then his grandma died the same day,
Well,
and then
yeah,
he had a puppy that he needed to give away when getting another surgery. So here's the deal. If all of this is true, weird way of saying it, and then ABC has decided to shut this whole guy's game down because they play very playful music over his entire thing. It's like the someone's up to a lie music while he's like telling this very manufactured sounding sob story. Again, if this is all true, okay, wow. Like you've had the worst series of events ever in history recorded happen to you in a sequential format. So that's interesting.
So Mike,
But he doesn't seem sad when saying it.
it was weird.
It was weird.
There was something off. I don't know. I can't tell like what's editing and what. But Mike decides.
scares me.
Mike
on, buddy.
toes the line here.
Come on, buddy.
But he tested the water. So he pulls Hannah aside because he obviously wants to tell her that Cam was telling her this today specifically to get a quote unquote pity rose.
Yep.
And he tests the waters and basically asks her, how was it for you in the house? Like when you would see other people doing things in the house, how was that for you?
He asks her experience of something.
Yes. And clearly, because he wants to know, does she want to know this information, right? And her response had something to do with along the lines that Colton did a decent job, or she's like, Colton did a good job of making sure that, you know, everybody
Felt like heard. Or
felt
something.
heard
Yeah,
and
listened
everybody
to.
knew. So he takes that as, okay, she wants to know. And he tells her about Cam.
Yeah.
So then she goes and pulls Cam and is like, Mike said this. She does the thing that Colton did last season where instead of like, you know, skating around it, she's like, Mike said this. Is this true? What's going on?
They also say right reasons like 4 times in this segment. So thank you for the publicity. As always, ABC, we appreciate it. Next time, put our logo on the bottom. Thanks.
So confronts Cam.
Yep.
Baby Vial says that she gave him warning shots because as she's leaving, she says, Chris comes to grab Hannah for the rose ceremony, and Hannah says, if you get a rose tonight, it's not a pity rose.
Well, before that, she questions Cam's stories.
Oh, yeah.
He says he's going to be honest. She kind of doesn't believe him. And then he wavers for a second on the facts of his story, and she just pounces on it and just gets in there. And so he gets flustered. She just pursues the conversation really well. It doesn't look good. And then that's the knife twist if I've ever heard one, when she goes out there and she's like, there will be no pity roses handed out tonight. And I was like, oh, yeah.
It was
you, Kim.
amazing. It was amazing.
It was great. All right. So, and then this is the best move of the entire episode. Best move. Sorry, Jed. Sorry, Peter. Sorry, Connor. None of you guys pulled this out. Hannah comes out for the rose ceremony, and she looks really, really good. And Mike just stops and says, can we all just say how good you look right now? You look amazing. Awesome. Awesome job, Mike.
Choo-choo.
That was good, too, because then you're the one saying it, but you're getting all the guys in on it, too. And it was a good move. And she did look amazing.
She really did. That red dress was awesome.
It was hot. With, like, the darker lipstick, too. Yeah. She looked hot.
You guys, this headband is not working for me right now.
Well, good thing we're almost done. All right. So, here's who gets roses.
Okay, wait, hold on.
We're doing the thing.
All right. Ready?
Well, so you got those three.
Yep.
That's Mike, Connor, and Peter, right? Grab those.
Correct.
Mike, Connor, and Peter. Okay. Jed. Not shocking.
Jed.
Tyler. Dustin. Dylan. Grant. Luke P. gets rewarded for his behaviors and gets a rose to go on to next episode. Garrett. John Paul Jones. Mateo. Devin. Luke S. Baby Vial. Sorry. And Kevin. The people that go home are Jonathan. Cam. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And someone else.
That we don't remember their name.
All right. I don't know why we have these other ones up here.
Because that was from the first episode.
Oops, my bad.
Those are all the rejectos. So this is who's left.
Rejectos.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
15 guys left.
15 guys left. And we get not only a preview for next week, but we get that, and then this season, and we get a little peek into the rest of the season. So before we give you the peek into next week in the season, I just wanted to mention that this show actually has a sponsor.
Oh.
And we have forgotten to mention that the past few times. So this show is sponsored by Wright Wellness Center, which is our business, sponsors the show, but specifically our brand new relationship intensives. We have pulled the Band-Aid off and are going against the traditional couples therapy format. So if you are in a relationship and you are ready to save it or have it be not needing to be saved, let us know. We have an application. We have limited spots available. We'll put the link in the show notes, but we can help you have the best relationship possible no matter where you are. That is today's sponsor. Very quick #ad.
Okay.
Next week,
Mike calls Luke P a psychopath.
I'm so here for this.
I'm excited for that. I wrote down challenge, conflict, all the guys get closer except for those two. And then later this season, Luke P becomes angrier and more controlling. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for having him on TV. He's a great message for young men in this world. Awesome, ABC. Keep doing it. It's helpful.
Luke seems to go a few episodes more.
Awesome. More volume for someone like him.
Yeah. So we'll see. I really hope that his cycle on the show ends up showing that his actions have bad consequences. That, like, fingers crossed for that.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Let's see.
Looks like Hannah and Jed get a one-on-one next week, which I'm excited about. And Baby Vial says to Luke P. So Luke says to Luke, "Karma's a bitch, and you're gonna get yours." And then Mike says, "Someone's messing with my queen." I'm so here for this. Mike.
All right.
Woo!
Well, that's this episode of That's my podcast. Time for some coffee.
So that concludes this episode of The Right Reasons. Please let us know your thoughts, your feelings. We want to know what you think. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? All of the questions. And thanks for tuning in, whether you're on YouTube or on the podcast. We love having you. And as usual, rate, subscribe, like, comment, share.
Bye-bye, Cam. You sucked on the show, and I'm happy to see you leave. Did you come with a better acronym yet?
No. Away. No. I suck at these things.
Oh, well. We'll come up with a better one next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.